The concept of family is supposed to mean a safe harbor, but for a long time, I was just the infrastructure. I was the load-bearing pillar holding up a house that belonged to everyone else, the person whose sacrifice was entirely assumed rather than requested. My contributions simply landed without acknowledgement because noticing my effort would complicate the convenient narrative my family preferred to believe about themselves. For years, I allowed myself to be treated like furniture, absorbing the weight without bitterness because I was practiced at telling myself that everything was fine. My older sister Nicole had been engaged for over a year when the logistical nightmare of her wedding finally collapsed into my lap. She did not actually ask for my help. It was simply that the ceremony required meticulous planning, and I was the one capable of executing it. I spent a grueling Saturday in February driving to 4 separate catering companies, taking detailed notes on my phone, and ranking her preferences. When the venue demanded an immediate $8,000 deposit to secure the date, I put it on my own credit card because I was the one standing there. Nicole casually promised she would settle the balance later, a word I knew was doing massive heavy lifting, but I chose to remain quiet. 8 months slipped away without a single word of repayment, a reality I repeatedly minimized to keep the peace. The breaking point arrived on a chilly Friday evening, exactly 24 hours before the guests were scheduled to arrive. A text message lit up my phone stating that I was out because she only wanted her real family standing beside her the next day. The message ended with a cold command to have no hard feelings about the sudden exclusion. I stared at the screen for 90 seconds, letting the sheer absurdity of her words sink in before typing back a brief reply. I told her that was perfectly fine, and added that her real family could now pay for the venue themselves. I sent the message before my usual instinct could edit it into something more polite, marking the first genuinely honest action I had taken in months. When my mother called 10 minutes later, she was laughing that familiar, dismissive laugh that always meant we both know you do not mean it. My mother told me not to be dramatic and assumed my compliance because that was the predictable pattern we had followed for decades. The venue manager called my phone the next morning at precisely 9:47, seeking the mandatory 48-hour confirmation required from the primary account holder. Because I had handled the paperwork, my name was on the contract, and Nicole had never bothered to read the fine print. I politely informed the manager that I would not be attending and was not in a position to authorize the event on behalf of the party. I provided the coordinator with Nicole's phone number, thanked them for their time, and hung up to let the consequences unfold. Within the hour, my phone began to vibrate continuously with incoming calls from my sister, my mother, and finally, her fiancé, Garrett. Garrett was a decent man who was suddenly standing in the middle of a total logistical disaster on his wedding morning through no fault of his own. That specific detail sat uncomfortably with me, so I answered his call and explained the contractual facts evenly without any added drama. I provided Garrett with the manager's direct line and the contact information for an alternative caterer I knew had last-minute openings. I did not apologize for the situation, nor did I offer an explanation beyond the absolute truth before wishing him the best. My mother attempted to reach me twice more, but I allowed the calls to go straight to voicemail while I reclaimed my Saturday. I spent the afternoon taking a long walk along the river, watching the water move past without any regard for deposits or broken family dynamics. The wedding ultimately took place at a much smaller venue across town, booked in a state of absolute panic with only half the original guest count. My aunt confirmed this by texting me a silent photograph on Sunday morning, a message that spoke volumes without a single word of text. I did not feel a grand sense of victory as I sat on my porch reflecting on the weekend's chaos. Instead, I felt a quiet, unfamiliar peace, realizing that for the first time in my life, I had finally been taken